Good afternoon. It's Bo down here at Ravens Keep Forge. Just doing I don't know, just thought I'd kind of have a little bit of a conversation with everybody. Start today giving you a tour of the Smithy and answer some questions. Maybe we'll get into some forging, give you a little background on me, why I got started. I've had several people have asked me to do something like this. Thought it would be kind of fun. I know the way our current situation is we'll call it challenging. So I kind of thought that we would just have a conversation. Got the forge already fired up, so look forward to maybe plinking around a little bit with that and see how that goes, see what we can kind of create, see what ideas you guys have, and we'll kind of take it from there. Trying to figure out how to do some of this. This is my first time with doing live. I've done video. I don't know how the signal's going to hold out, so we'll just kind of keep our fingers crossed and things work out the way they're supposed to, right? So let's see if I can switch this around. Oh, hey, works. All right, so there is the Smithy. Pardon the tripod, it's not always there. I thought I'd set that up for you guys so you can kind of see. I've got a little Appalachian engineering done with it. And these first two bays, these are Smithy. The other two bays are miscellaneous stuff, usually wood, garden utensils, garden kind of things. Well, let's give you a tour. When we got this place, a year or so ago, I didn't even know there was concrete in the floor. This whole area was absolutely covered with dirt. It was probably 4 to 5 inches of dirt in here when we got this place. I guess we've been here about 2 years now. It had not been lived in a year and not been very well taken care of, so it was a lot of work to get it to this point. So we'll just kind of give you a little bit of a tour, and then we'll get into doing some forging. And I'll kind of talk along. If you've got questions, please feel free. And I'd love to have a thumbs up if you can actually hear this. I'm not sure how my signal is. I'm going to show you. There's my supply of charcoal. I make my own charcoal. I got to be making some more here pretty soon. Charcoal is made right over there. If you can see that drum that's kind of tilted down. I'll walk over here and we can kind of take a look at it. I'll actually load it up with wood. That's a lot of what this is drying, so we can actually make wood. And then I actually cook it right in this 55-gallon drum right here. Just build a fire under it and let it cook off all the extra moisture, and it makes charcoal. So that's that. Let's see. Hey Amanda, I keep all my copper sheets. You see a lot of the copper stuff that I do, the fairy bowls and coffee scoops and little odds and ends. I keep all my copper up here. Everything that I have is all repurposed, so I end up gathering stuff from junkyards, or amazing the amount of people give you things when you find out you can use them. Actually down there you can see an old tiller blade I dug out of my hardware store. That's tool steel, so I'll probably end up making some type of knife or fro or something like that. And we have some discarded railroad. Hi Amanda. Railroad spikes. Everybody seems to love those. These were actually the very first tongs that I made. Scary. 8 years ago. You can see it's broke off. That's why I'm not using them anymore, but I kind of keep it for nostalgia. And just miscellaneous bolts, and there's always something that I can use from. Got a farrier friend that donates used horseshoes. When I say used, I mean they still got the nails in them, right? So I do things with that. And there's lawnmower blades and files and just miscellaneous stuff that I keep around. All my metal is all repurposed. I get from junkyards and stuff. I keep over here. This here, whoops, hope that didn't give you vertigo. This is what I affectionately call thing one. This was other than my original forge, which was actually in the ground. You'll see a picture on the Facebook page. This is what I call thing one. I used this for, gosh, 6-7 years. Still works great. It's mainly for wood. It's what they call a bottom blast forge, because the air comes up from the bottom. If you can see the air holes there. So you would just literally build a fire in here with wood. It's part of one of the classes that we do. We teach this style, and it just has a real fancy hand crank blower. So it's nothing real. If you know me, I'm real low budget, right? I like to try to figure out ways to make things work with what I have as low cost and efficiently as possible. This is a farrier's anvil. A lot of people don't know what the difference between anvils are. This is the farrier's anvil, and you can see what they call cams here on the side. And most of the weight of this anvil is actually done here in the horn, because they use it to shape horseshoes. So all the weight necessary for what they need to do is done primarily in the horn. Now that's about 70 pounds, so it's not super heavy. It works really well. See, over here are the primitive anvils that we use for class. They're basically just blocks of metal. They work great. I still have mine that I do my demos with. Absolutely love using one. They're really handy. You don't need a lot to do this craft. In fact, there's mine. I don't know if you can see that there. There's mine there. And then this is what I affectionately call thing two. Thing one, thing two. As you can see, it's literally a box of dirt, right? And you can see I got the charcoal going in there. And it's just made up of wood around the sides, and it's just covered with dirt. Works wonderful, love it. Big fan of it. Less smoky than thing one, but you know, I made this, probably been using maybe the last year or so. Within the last year. Wanted to talk a little bit about I'm gonna switch you around. Hopefully I didn't give you vertigo too bad. I'm assuming the signal's still good. I got started in this, let's see, about 8 years ago maybe. And kind of what got me started was kind of wanted to honor my grandfather, right? My blood roots are Appalachian. They were from East Tennessee. I grew up in Western North Carolina, very much Appalachian. And he had one of those community gardens, right? You know, where you come work, you got food. In fact, I think the worst thing he could say about anybody was that they were lazy. I remember one time riding around in the car when I was little, and my grandmother had noticed the town drunk, right? Hey, Karen. And you know, my grandmother was commenting about the town drunk, and grandfather said, yeah, but when he's sober he can work. So pretty much the worst thing he could say about somebody was lazy. Anyway, he had a smithy in his garage, right, in his shop, because I guess the way everybody was raised at that point, you know, you didn't go buy a new tool, right? You fixed what you had. The only time you bought a new tool is when you couldn't fix the one you had. So I kind of wanted to do this to honor him. And as I started doing some research early on, it was just, you know, extremely cost prohibitive, we'll say, because it's an expensive craft. And then I had found a week-long intensive up in Asheville, and went to it. Place called Firefly. I don't know if any of y'all have heard it, but anyway, it was put on, kind of sponsored by them, and I got hooked, right? I mean, we just literally, we do it the way I teach it. You know, it's hole in the ground, make your bellows, use fire, use wood, and you're blacksmithing. And absolutely loved it, fell in love with it, just got hooked on it, and kind of kept going and going and going. And have just kind of built it into a pretty much a part-time business now. Needless to say, not a lot of festivals going on right now, so I've got a little bit of extra free time, and figured I'm forging anyway, right? So might as well invite some friends over, and we'll kind of have a conversation and talk, and see what we can come up with, see what we can make. I posted this on my Facebook page yesterday, and asked if anybody could guess what it was going to be. And got a lot of terrific answers, right? Somebody had said chopsticks, which I thought, hey, not a bad idea. I'd never made chopsticks before, so that was probably a pretty good idea. And then somebody else had said knit needles, which, Amanda, maybe you can help me out with this. Maybe, but I think they need a little hook or something in them to actually make them knit right. So I'm going to switch this around and show you where I'm at in the process. These aren't done. Apologize for the vertigo. But this was kind of what I posted on the page yesterday. And then I'd asked if anybody could guess what they are, or going to be. Not what they are currently, but what they're going to be. The metal, I'll give you a little bit more of a hint. The metal is actually made from hay rake tines. And, oh, I got some right over here. So they're actually from this right here. These are hay rake tines, right? You get them on the, you'll see them around here where they're raking up the hay. You can see the little round part there, where they're hooked up. They're on the end. Crochet hooks, yes. That's what somebody had guessed. And I think you got to have a little indention or something right here, little hooky thing right there, right? Maybe, I don't know. I don't work with that medium. I know you do, Amanda. So maybe you could kind of answer what else you would need. But these, since it's tool steel, it has a very high carbon content to it. So what they're actually going to become is that, right? They're fire strikers. So I'll have to finish flattening them out on this end here. And then, of course, I'll make the loop and go it around. And it's kind of one of the projects that I'm going to be working on today, kind of tinkering around. So those are will be fire strikers. So I know it's kind of hard to tell. Use your imagination. Probably helps a little bit now. You can actually see what they're going to be. Probably drew them out a little bit too long. Yesterday wasn't my best day. I'll show you kind of what they got started with. I probably should have got this out earlier. I don't do live, so I'm kind of winging it. Y'all just kind of bear with me, and we'll get to it. There. That's what it started. See, that's what that was. If you can see how I ended up drawing the metal out to make this part right here, and then this part here will flatten out, so you can have a good edge to strike, right, to give you your spark for your flint. Well, Amanda, you're the only person that I know of that does any kind of knitting and yarn work. So I figured maybe crochet, yarn, I don't know. Like I said, it's not my medium, but I thought it was a neat idea. Maybe that's something I can kind of work on. Be something. If I got all this pesky free time now, right? Anybody have any questions before we kind of get going? Not sure exactly how this is going to work, so we'll kind of work with this together. This is the forge. As you can see, I've got charcoal in there, and we're getting kind of warm. It's nice and hot. I'm assuming this feed's working okay, and y'all can kind of hear okay. Like I said, I'm down here at the forge. It's a ways from the house. I wasn't sure how my Wi-Fi was going to work. I'm out in the country, so I have no cell service. So we do Wi-Fi here. And as you can see, I still have just a hand crank blower. With charcoal and wood, it doesn't need a lot of air. If you see people working with coal, you're going to find, I'm going to switch this around again. I feel like I'm talking to air. Here we go. With charcoal and wood, doesn't need a lot of air in order to create the heat. Coal, on the other hand, needs a lot of air. So that's why you'll see a lot of times with those blacksmiths that work with coal, you'll see the big blowers. You know, they've got these big cranks, right? So because it produces a lot of air, and you need air. And the difference between thing one, which is a bottom blast, right? We talked about because the air comes up from the bottom. This one is actually what they call a side blast. The air comes directly. I'm thinking I'm showing you, and obviously I'm not. See, so the air comes directly, and it runs right through here. And then probably an inch or so down is where the pipe comes out, right? And so it pushes air to the side, therefore a side blast. That way the heat, most of the heat will be right here in the center. It's not really over on the sides much. It's right here in the center, and that's where your heat is. Whereas that over on thing one, the air comes up from the bottom to help cook the wood faster to make the charcoal, because that's what you're actually doing with the wood forge, is you're creating charcoal as you go, versus with this forge, I've already done that process. So it's just charcoal that we're using right away. Okay, well, let's see. So that's the grand tour, I guess. So let's see if I can get this, and we'll fire it up and we'll do some forge work. Pardon me while I give y'all vertigo again. Oh, there we go. Hopefully this will work and y'all can see. Hey, can you see the anvil okay? Yep, yeah, I can see that. And then we've got the forge over here. Like I said, I've never done the live thing, so y'all will have to bear with me as we do this. If you have any questions, feel free just to type them in the chat. If you're having a good time, enjoying it, we're just kind of all in this together, feel free to ask whatever you want to ask. Figured this would be a great way, maybe it's a little therapeutic for folks, and might learn something along the way. If you have questions about what I'm doing or why I'm doing what it is I'm doing, once again, ask. New anvil stand, by the way. I don't know if any of y'all saw pictures of it on the Facebook page, but the one I had was a little bit higher, and I started working with larger metal, so I needed a little bit more swing to it. Okay, so I ended up making a new stump so I could get my anvil down a little bit lower, so it gives me a little bit better follow through. Now I wear gloves not because of the heat, but it keeps my hands clean, so it saves me a step. So I was trying to think of things to make. We'll probably finish up probably all but heat treating, maybe, with the fire strikers, and we might get to that part today. I don't know how long this will go. I'm just kind of winging it with y'all. If there's anything in particular, just type it in the chat. Feel free to give it a thumbs up that you can hear. Let's see, we'll need these tongs. So, pardon me as I walk away from the camera. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Not sure. So we're going to create this from these. So the first thing that we're going to do at this point is, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to flatten this part out, and then I'll bend it over. And the reason I personally I do that is just because it's easier to handle. One thing I found out about this community is you can ask 10 blacksmiths a question and you'll get about 27 different answers. So I just, hey Byron, so I figured I'd just, we'll flatten these out. We'll kind of go from there. If there's anything particular that you guys want to see or have questions of, we can talk about the weather. We can talk about, well, I'm not an expert at the weather, but evidently nobody else is either. I can probably get as close as everybody else. Byron, you were more than welcome. Thanks for encouraging me. Good. Phoenix, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the feedback. It's different being on this end. I saw you doing your Qigong, and hats off to you. That kind of gave me a little idea of doing this. So I appreciate that, my friend. So keeping us involved. All right. So as I said, what we're going to do is we're going to flatten this end out. So that way when we go around to actually put the curl, right, and then actually bend it back, I've got something else to hold on to that's a little bit easier to work with, versus doing this first and then trying to hold it to flatten it. Personal preference. I'm sure everybody does things a little differently. This is just my way, right? Who knows? Things that go bump in the dark, right? And maybe if we go through this long enough, we'll look at doing some magical smithing. Maybe we'll look at doing amulets and talismans, that type of thing. Maybe look at, I'm not sure about doing wand work. That's a little That's kind of out there, and I only do those on certain days of the month anyway. You're welcome, Phoenix. Once again, I appreciate you doing that for the community. That kind of gave me the idea of doing this. So you're a trendsetter. All right, so we're gonna warm this up. We're gonna hammer it a little bit. We're gonna just flatten it out and go from round to, we're gonna go for rectangle, okay? We're gonna go for rectangle. It might be just a little bit off. I am not a master smith. I'm just a guy that likes to beat metal. Have to kind of get this cooking a little bit. Maybe would y'all like to see the fire as it heats up? Maybe I can get you over here a little bit so you can kind of see what I'm looking at. Everything looks a little differently. So I'm going to give y'all vertigo again. Well, how about I take a glove off so my phone works? All right. So as you can see, as I'm cranking, you can see the fire heating up, right? So what I want to do is I want to make sure the metal is in my hot spot, right? I don't want it too far out, too close in. One thing about charcoal is it gets hot really fast, and if you're not careful, you can burn metal, right? Y'all seen a sparkler, right? That's what happens when you burn metal. It actually burns the carbon out of it and just makes it a piece of iron at that point. The difference between iron and steel, I guess, is the carbon content. Not a metallurgist. Don't pretend to be one. Don't even play one on TV. Look. See, we're getting there. We're not quite hot enough yet, but we want to get red hot, right? Another one of those wonderful blacksmith sayings. Well, I guess that would be a good topic while we're doing this. What sayings that we use in everyday life are come from blacksmithing? You think of it, blacksmithing had in the early days was kind of the cornerstone of almost any village. Everything came out of the blacksmith shop. If you think about it, you know, the cobbler, hammer, chisels, tools, carpenter, tinsmith, everything came out of the blacksmith shop because they had to have the tools for that. And it is very much ingrained in our society, what we're doing. And as far as the blacksmith of old age, in fact, he was considered very much a magician, right? Because he could take fire and work with metal and bend metal. Yes, do a little bit more. Less talky, more worky. So, hopefully that's not coming across too annoying. There we go. My anvil's probably still a little on the cool side. It wasn't too bad last night. What I'm doing is I'm just trying to straighten it a little bit as I go. Once it gets below red, you want to stop hitting it. Right, so we're going to go take it up to red. Nice red color. Now, you've noticed I've got two pieces in here. That way, while one's heating, I can work the other. So it makes it a little bit more time efficient. I don't want to have, here's one for you, too many irons in the fire. So what I'm trying to do is just thin this out a little bit because I want to make sure that we get a good edge. So is what we're trying to do is make a nice striking surface here, but that's still a little bit too thick. I want it a little bit thinner because when you make a fire striker, basically what you're doing is you're shaving small pieces of metal off. And as you do that, that's what creates a little spark. And you have to have a very high carbon steel to do that. And then of course you have to treat it, heat treat it a certain way, so that you're able to shave those pieces off to do that. Some nice anvil dust, which I will collect later at the end of the day. reheat that one a little bit. Ah, there we go. That's a nice one. Hopefully you can see that out there. This is one craft that has, by nature, I am not a patient person. And this craft has taught me patience. Somewhat. Not completely. Not 100%. I still want things now, but it has taught me patience. See, we're getting there. A little bit thinner. Probably got maybe one, maybe two more heats on that one. And then we'll be good. Cover up the hot spot a little bit, and what that does is that kind of, what I'm doing is I'm taking some of the coals from the back and moving it up over what I'm working on to kind of help give it a little bit of insulation. That way it kind of keeps the heat on the metal versus escaping. Plus it kind of ignites the coal above it, so I'll get a nice heat all the way around. There we go. Now we're going. And once I start losing the color, then I like to kind of go back and just reshape from where it moves out of shape. There's not a whole lot of metal that you can move. We're getting there. Another couple of heats and we'll be able to flip it around and work on the curlicue, make it kind of purdy. And make it where you can actually use it too. That's kind of important. All right, here we go. I don't want to get it too much. I want to make sure that I've got a little bit to grind out and it's got a little bit of heft. I want to make sure it's got a nice even flatness here, because as you're striking it, you don't want it to kind of be wobbly on you. So we want to make sure we're keeping that. And then we'll take the tail and we'll bend the tail around the back side. So that way the edge that you're striking is kind of away. Kind of like, maybe you can see a little bit more of what I'm talking about with this one. See, kind of what I'm going for. There you go. All right, cool. Y'all will be more proficient than me, hopefully, after this, right? See what kind of a teacher I am. Then after we do this part, right, we'll get the forming, then we're going to do what they call annealing, which is you're basically going to take your metal up to the temperature to where it's no longer magnetic. Still kind of freaks me out a little bit to do that, because I mean, how often do you find non-magnetic metal, right? All right. So I'm kind of drawing this out. Drawing it out means you're making it longer. You hear the term, that's what that means. And then when you look at doing what they call upsetting, you're actually making it shorter. Doing this and then flattening it back out on the anvil. Because as you hit on the top of the metal, you also have to remember that the bottom of the metal is being flattened and worked on by the bottom of the anvil. So you're actually working it from two different directions. Woo! Flat. Yeah, I think probably good. Because these will actually go in fire striker kits that I make. And I got dust everywhere. Let's see what we're looking like. I need to flatten that edge out a little bit. Down a little bit. Clean it a little bit as we go. But fire striker kits that I make will have a fire striker, duh, and pardon me as I walk off. It'll come in a little bit of it'll come in a tin that I include a piece of chert. I have these just to make sure that the strikers work when I get done, but they'll have a piece of chert and some char cloth. So I need to make sure that they're that size will fit in here. So that way if you're ever stuck out in the woods or God forbid it hits the fan, you can always make fire, right? That's the one I just put in. More worky, less talky. Add a little bit more fuel. Much better. All right. Just flatten off the edge a little bit. So we have a nice striking surface. And then we'll end up grinding that down on the grinder just to make sure we have a nice clean edge on it. I think that's good. So now we've got something that's fairly easy to get a hold of. Where is that tin? I got that for a reason. So as we're working on the handle, we want to make sure that it fits inside the tin. So that's kind of why we'll set that up there, because I'm sure I'll need it, but I think we're probably good with that. Okay, we'll set that to the side. We'll work on our other. I think this one looks pretty good too. Get it nice and flat. Not hitting it very hard, so I'm just trying to flatten it out a little bit. Alrighty, I think that's good. So then what we'll need to do now is we'll need to work on our ends. Just because it ain't red don't mean it ain't hot. This will not be a long process on this at all. Just have a nice good fire going, and these is kind of small pieces here. Get that one in there. Can y'all see the anvil okay? I'm assuming. I hope so. If not, holler. If so, say yeah, it's doing pretty good. I can see it. If not, make it closer. Make it farther away. This should not Be but a moment. Okay, so here's a problem that, not a problem, but here's an issue that most people, including myself, struggle with from time to time. When forming metal, sometimes you have to think backwards. And what I mean by that, thank you, Phoenix. So as we bend over, bend the metal over and around, we want it to look like this, right? Can you see that okay? See how the little loops on the top, right? So we have to make the loop on the top backwards, okay? So we need to make the loop down here so that when it folds back, it's on the top, right? So it needs to be on the bottom here, so it's on the top over here. Make sense? So as you do that, you have to think, how am I going to make the loop on the bottom? Got to kind of think in processes, right? It's different steps. Kind of like, I guess, a little bit like chess maybe. Think a couple moves ahead. All right, so this is the top, so we need to work on the bottom. And I think I'm already going to be, I don't know, let's see. I'll know real quick. Working it around, got the loop. Yep, I'm already backwards. See, many times I do this, I still lose track. I'm not used to talking and working at the same time, so y'all be patient with me. Right, and when I make a loop, there's a lot of folks that will use a lot of different tools. These are called scrolling tongs because they're round, right? See, they'll grab a hold of the metal and actually roll it around like that. I learned with just an anvil, it was a block of metal, right? As we looked at earlier. So I've always feel that I can do them just as well, just over the edge of the anvil. It's just a preference. You can get scrolling tongs and scrolling jigs, and there's all kinds of neat and fancy tools. Let's see, I bet I've got this one backwards already. Yep. All right, sitting here talking, I need to pay attention here. But anyway, so you can get all these kind of fancy tools and jigs. I don't really think, you know, I guess it depends on what you're going to do. Most of the tools that I have and have acquired over the years, they come in handy for, you know, not now and then, but for the most part, don't really use them. All right, so we'll try this again. So we're going to go crisp over the anvil. So we have a nice 90. Bend it up. Scroll it around, and I'm losing my heat. And I went backwards again. How fun is that? Well, this is the time that scrolling tongs come in handy. All right, so go down. We'll have to straighten that one back out. Hey, it happens, right? Nothing's perfect. I don't know why this is so challenging to me today. Nerves for being live, maybe. Maybe that's it. Nice round. There. Now we have a nice little circle. Clean some of the scale off. So now, as we bend this back around, this will be on the top side. Okay? So now, we need to get the heat. Here is where I want the heat. So I'm going to stick this good ways into the fire. We can heat that section up. And then I am going to take my scrolling tongs and straighten this up because this has gotten kind of warm, so it's easy to do. Get all the little dings and dents out of it. All right. So does everybody have their life supply of toilet paper yet? Sorry, I just think it's funny. Not talking down to anybody by any stretch of the imagination. It just seems a little funny. Alrighty, we'll do this the right way, starting at the top and working around. The anvil gives us a nice crisp bend, and I got it probably too cold. We'll see. There, nice. I can live with that. See, nice roundness. All right. So once again, I'm going to heat this up here. So, because this is where I want it to bend. I really don't need this to bend. I need this part to bend. So we'll get this hot so it bends easy. So it goes. Get it in the hot spot. Here we go. See how I got it hot right where I want it to bend? We'll take it over the anvil. And get it started. And we'll probably heat that up again, because what I want is I'm going to want this to be fairly even. Okay, so I need to heat this up again, and then I'll hammer it down, and it should just come right nicely right there. That's the game plan, right? So is there anything that you would like for me to demonstrate? Man, there's just so many videos out there of people that are really good at this craft, that have kind of already done this, done it time and time again, including what I'm doing. I just kind of thought this would be kind of a nice way to kind of forget about the day a little bit, maybe have a little conversation about whatever y'all want. See, back to kind of the same thing with this. I'll show you. Get a little bit closer. See, I want to kind of make sure my tail is even, right? So I'll heat it back up here, and then I'll hammer it from the top, and you'll see it just kind of just fall on down, real nice and easy. Nice and easy. So blacksmithing sayings. Anybody got anything else besides I mentioned earlier, too many irons in the fire? Anybody think of anything else? Hey, Elsa. Hate to give them all away. We use them all the time, or maybe not all the time, but I imagine most of us use them quite frequently. Just a little bit more. A little bit more. And what I did is I just dipped my tongs in the water to cool them off a little bit. I don't want them to get real hot on the end. Hi, Elsa. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. You can make one. I know you can. I've seen your work. I have seen your work, Mr. Phoenix. All right, so I got this all backwards, wonky and sideways. Don't do that. What I just did, don't do that. All right, so I've got this down, and I'm hitting it from the top because I need it to bend down. Nice and easy. Easy does it. And we're going to flatten her out some. Almost kind of looks to me like one of the Irish harps, I guess. I'm not Irish, try not, don't want to offend nobody, but it kind of reminds me of the harp that you see on the side of the Guinness bottles. Maybe I drink too much Guinness. Maybe that's it. All right, so let me get it around here so I can hold it, so I can show you. So there we are. What do you think? Long way away from what we started at, right? So I'm gonna set that off to the side while I get the other one done. This has got a nice heat. We're gonna go flat on the anvil, get it from the top. You can see there's always a struggle. Things always work. See, the first one worked out great, right? And I've got it probably just about too cold. All right, I'm gonna put this back in the fire, heat it up so I can shape it. Okay, because I don't want to hit it when it's cold, especially when you're dealing with tool metal, because tool metal is very brittle and will break. Ask me how I know, right? I've actually seen people that have made these, drop them on the floor, and they break because they're brittle, like glass almost. Really kind of, you wouldn't think that being metal, but there you go. All right, see how we got. Nope, not yet. Once again, I'm heating up the very end of it because that's where all the metal is going to move from, and it'll straighten all out real nice and neat. I don't need to do all of it. This is the section I need to move. There we go. Being nice and hot. Let the anvil do some work here. Oh yeah, just tap, tap, tap. Perfect. That's beautiful. Look at that. That's gorgeous. I don't care who you are, that looks good right there. All right, so now I'm going to clean them up, clean both of them up a little bit, try to scrape off some of the excess scale. Then we're going to do what they call normalize and anneal. We'll bring them up to what they call critical temp, which is when they turn neutral and they'll not be magnetic, and I'll show you that because that's really kind of cool. I think so, anyway. And then we will let them anneal or normalize in some vermiculite, right? That stuff you get from the garden store, right? That you add in with potting soil or whatever, right? They call it vermiculite. I'm not exactly sure what it does. I have to ask my beloved. She's the plant person. I'm just trying to get a lot of the excess scale off. That's not necessarily necessary. We don't want it in our forge work. Now, we are going to do something cool. I always thought this always kind of freaked me out a little bit. Not freaky in a bad way, just like, wow, cool, check that out. Kind of freaky. Get my bricks together. And these are fire bricks, by the way. Don't do this with regular bricks. They'll explode. Well, I wouldn't recommend doing it. You do what you want to do. I necessarily wouldn't. So we're going to kind of bury these in there a little bit. Yep, that's hot. So once again, the gloves are really not for heat. Keep my hands from getting hot. They're here just to kind of keep them from getting dirty. All right, so we'll heat these up kind of slow. Make sure they get good and soaked. Have a nice soak on them, heat soak, so it's kind of hot all the way through. I reuse everything. Best part of annealing metal. so I'll show you what this stuff is, in case you don't know. Vermiculite, right? It's just like, I don't know, styrofoam, really, right? Anyway, so what we'll do is we'll get the metal up to critical, right? So it's no longer magnetic. And then we're just going to pop them in here, right? So that they cool off really slow. I guess I'm not a metallurgist, but the thought behind it is, I'm going to kind of clean up a little bit as I go. Pardon if I'm off camera. I'm just trying to clean the mess up so I don't have too much out. The thought is, you've got all the little molecules in the metal that are kind of wrapping around, moving around, and they've kind of conformed one way or another, and what you want to do is kind of relax them, okay, so that it kind of go back to normalize, which is normal, right? That kind of helps them from being helps it from being brittle, right? You don't have all the molecules in certain areas. That's kind of how it was explained to me. I'm not a metallurgist. I don't even play one on TV. I don't really know. So, and then I am going to get what I'm getting is my magnet. I keep a magnet on my anvil, and we'll show you. It collects anvil dust, right? So we'll show you about when we get to the annealed stage, right? So we'll look at it now. I know it's not there yet now, but I'll kind of show you the difference. Some of it might be, but I want all of it, right? So see how it's sticking, right? We got nothing here. It's pretty wild, isn't it? Right? So there's nothing, and you can feel it starting to come back now on this one, starting to get a little bit of a grab. So I kind of want it all like that, and then we'll put it in the vermiculite, and we will let her soak. Usually takes an hour or so, right? Maybe 2 to cool off enough to where then we can temper it, right? Can someone think of blacksmith thing by using that? I'm going to bring the vermiculite over here so y'all can see it. Still getting used to my new anvil stump. My other one was probably over there, almost at least half again as wide. So I had a lot of shelving, you know, to where I was able to put stuff. Don't quite have that luxury anymore. Let's see if I can find the other one. It's not in the hot spot yet, so let's get her down in there. This one's good and hot. Okay, so we have a nice bright red heat. Woo! Boy, we're almost too hot. All right, so we've got our end. Knock off a little bit of the scale. We have no stickiness, right? See, there's just a little bit on the edge, but that's fine, because when I stick it down in here up, the heat rises, so we'll be fine with that. So we're just going to stick that down in the vermiculite, give it a nice long slow soak, let it cool off good, and then we'll heat treat it, right? So we've got to make it on a fire striker. You want it super hard, really hard. So you want it really super hard so that it's easy to shave off. That's funny thing. Shave off the metal, right? If it's not hard enough, it's not going to give you a spark. It's not going to do what you want it to do, right? So the question now becomes, what are we going to do next? Just about. There we go. That ought to do it. Got to be careful I don't get one spot too hot and the other not hot enough, and I end up melting it. I have done that. Got to give it a nice low soak here. Got to get the handle. Waiting for the handle to get red. There we go. Nice. There it is. So we're We're good. No sticky. A little sticky on the edge, which will be fine because all the heat once again will rise. So down in the vermiculite she goes. He goes. It goes. How's that? It goes. All right. So we'll wait for those to cool, and then we will heat treat them. We'll get them back up to about that same color that they were. So they'll be a nice bright red. Then we'll quench, right? Stick them in some water. So then it kind of freezes everything, makes it really super hard. And then I'll probably take it over to the grinder, make my edge nice and flat and clean. And we should be good. On a fire striker, that's how you temper that. You want it to be really hot. You want it to cool really quickly, which is why you put it in the water. And whereas you're looking at other tools, knives, chisels, those type of things, you want a different temper. Depending on what tool that you use. I usually like for what I make. I don't make a lot of knives. It's just not my thing. I have made them. Chisels, more tools to work around here. I'm more into that. There's some great bladesmiths that do much better work than I'll ever do. You know. So most of what I do is more for ceremonial. I can make them without a problem. It's just not something that's all that enjoyable. And our sun has gone. I'm assuming that the stream's still working okay. Everybody's hearing it. All right, let's see. How about what do we make next? I need some water. All this talking is making me thirsty. So what sounds good? What do you want to see? I'm gonna do like a Thor's hammer. I'll tell you what, we could do a drive hook. Phoenix, you remember how to do a drive hook, right? That'll give us a nice little twisting. Something fairly simple. Let me find some metal. I think I can find some metal around here somewhere. Trying to find one. Yeah, we'll use this. So we'll look at, I'll come around here so you guys can see. Probably easier. So this is a lot of the metal that I find that's around. A lot of people who would think this is just junk, right? Because you can see it's all kind of rusty, pitted, it's nasty. But we'll take a peek of it when we get done. And what I'm able to do with this one is once we get it done, we'll clean it up. We'll throw some either some polish or some boiled linseed oil. It kind of depends on what I feel like at the time. And you'll see how much nicer it looks. So hopefully this won't be too boring to you, Phoenix. I know you're an expert at making these. All right, so we'll re-rake my coals. I had to get them spread out so I could get to the fire good to get it hot for what we just finished. And drive hooks I like because I use them a lot. I don't know if you can see, I've got one right here. They're great for holding things. I've got one up here, which is off camera, that I use to hang stuff. They're great for just nailing in the wood, and you got a hook. A lot more decorative than a nail, right? All right, we're about there. I don't know about y'all, but I'm grateful that the stream's working. I wasn't sure how it was going to. Alright, so anytime you move metal, you draw it out. You always want to go square first. It's just easier on the metal, It'll keep it from folding in on itself, creating cracks. You can see where I'm starting to go to square. It cooled off, so we'll go back to it. Ooh, don't do that. We'll see you later, Phoenix. Take care, buddy. Thanks for stopping by. Maybe we'll do it again next time. Think of something that you want to see and let me know. Maybe we'll do a demo on it. I'm just pulling stuff out of the air. Maybe we can do one of those troll crosses that you like so much. So I don't ever see things as being bad metal. It just needs to be something else sometimes. Sometimes all it is just your creativity. Sometimes you just have to listen to the metal. It'll tell you what it wants to be. Or a lot of times in my case, it'll tell me what it doesn't want to be. All right. Next time we get together and I catch you online, we'll do a troll cross. Eric's a lot better at them, I warn you, but I'll give it a go. Nice red heat. So what I'm doing is I'm drawing it out to make it smaller, because I want to make a loop on the end. So you want to start, I always start with what I figure is the most challenging part first. So we'll do that. And we'll make our hook, and we'll make the drive part, so you're basically just making a nail up here, and we'll put a twist in, just because who doesn't like a nice twist? Gotta bling it up a little bit. Ooh. Got a little heavy-handed on that one. Got a little excited. Oh, there's the sun. Outstanding. Outstanding. I guess while we're talking, I can talk to you about this particular hammer. It's made by a friend of mine. And I've got a couple of his. They do really well. It's what they call a rounding hammer. So you can see all the weights kind of right at the hammer. It's flat on one end and kind of rounded on the other. Therefore, it's called a rounding hammer. And this is less than 2 pounds. I don't know if you can see, it says 1.75. So it's less than 2 pounds. I use this for about 90-95% of the work that I use. I don't necessarily think that you need a 3-pound hammer. I know I started out with a 3-pound hammer because, you know, more's better, right? But it didn't take me long after swinging for a while that I could actually get more. I could work longer with a smaller hammer. All right, so now that we've got us a nice little point here, I'm just gonna, here's a term for you, knock the rust off, right? So I'm just gonna hit some of this while it's still a little warm. We'll knock some of that nastiness off. All right, so I've gone where it's really kind of small, and then it's all square. So what I'm gonna do now is go back to round. So I've gone square, I go octagon, and then it'll work round. And even as I do that, it'll make it a little bit longer, so it's drawing it out. So I be able to have a nice little pretty loop on the end. So add some more fuel. Nothing like good old homemade charcoal. Alright, so we're going to go around, so we're going to hit on the diagonal and knock it down, the edges down a little bit. We'll turn it 90 degrees and do the other one. And we'll start rolling. And I've lost my heat, so it goes back in the fire. That's the thing about small metal. It doesn't take long to heat up, but it also doesn't take long before it cools off. More, and then we'll be able to make our loop and then work on our hook. Whew. Got a little excited with the square when I got started. Alright. See, so I got us a nice little point there. So we'll put a little loop on the end and we'll put our hook. But before I want to get to the hook part, I want to go ahead and clean this up. See where it's kind of all pitted and nasty? So we're going to get that hot and just kind of knock that down, right? So it's more round, it'll look better. We're also going to need to put a square in there so we can get us a nice twist, but we'll look at that in a minute. Square, me taking around and going to square, because that way when you do the twist, you can actually see the twist. Round twists don't look like a lot. Square twist, wow, do real well. Go in a little farther. I appreciate y'all joining me today. I hope it kind of takes your mind off things that are going. Hopefully you're learning something. Give you some entertainment. See where I've got it kind of hot in the middle there, and we're just going to kind of hit it, knock some of that pitting down, so it'll look a little bit better. Want it to be aesthetically pleasing, right? Don't want to have nasty work. It's my sweat rag. Believe me, it gets hot down here in the summer. Let's see, I'm just going to turn it around and heat the other end to kind of do the same thing. We'll get it cleaned up a little bit here, and then we'll finish it. Oops, slipped out of my tongs. There we go. Once again, knock some of this pitting down. This piece has seen some weather. The rest of this we'll probably be able to knock down when we make the drive hook. I don't know, we'll do a little bit more. this end I know will knock down when we do the dry part, so I just want to kind of clean it up a little bit. All right, then we'll go back to the other end. Do our hook. So we're going to put a little loop-de-loop in there first. Thanks to everybody for stopping by. If you have any suggestions, something you want to watch made, any questions, feel free to type them down in the comments. Bust. All right, I think that's much better. Use a little bit lighter brush on this than I did on it, because it doesn't have quite as much scale. Don't need to be quite as aggressive with it. There. So hopefully I'm showing you this really isn't something that's necessarily all that difficult. It takes some patience and know-how, practice, lots of practice. Sometimes I learn more from figuring out how not to make a light bulb than I do actually making a light bulb. All right, so we've got it nice and hot, and now we're going to make a loop over the edge. I'm going to heat it up a little bit more so it's easier to work with. What I'm looking at is I'm trying to look and see the dimensions, right? So I don't want a little bitty loop, this great big old piece. So I'm probably going to bend it some more right around in here to bend it over, just so the dimensions will work out a little bit better. So we'll put it back in the heat. Anybody got a time check? I have no idea what time it is. I get down here and I completely lose my time and space. This is kind of my sacred space, so to speak. Anyway, I think we'll probably finish up today with this. If there's not anything that's heavily on people's mind, I am going to go to the horn on this just because it makes it easier. Let's see. Round it up a little bit. There we go. That's prettier. That's prettier. All right. See, so now we have a nice pretty hook. And then what we'll do on this end is we're going to make basically, it's a drive hook, but basically what we're going to do is make a nail on that end, and then we'll bend it 90 degrees so we can drive it in some wood, and we'll be able to hang something from it. You'll have to let me know if there's a certain time that works better for you. I plan on trying to do these, depending on how everybody likes them. If they're worth your time, I'll be glad to. I'll be forging anyway, right? So I don't mind just turning on the camera. As long as it's a value to you. You get something out of it. You like the interaction. Let me know. So as we look at going through the week, there's a time that works better for you. I know for me, it's better kind of, lunchtime after lunch. But I will be glad to set everything up so y'all can be active spectators, right? All right, so this one here, once again, we got to go square because we're going to draw it out. Because you think we're making a nail, right? So we've got to have it nail-like on the end. Take some more fuel over. Nice little heat. Just straightening it out. I know it's not red, and I said I don't hit it unless it's red, but I just kind of shape it a little bit. And we probably need just one more. I think we need one more. Need one more? I think we need one more. Well, once again, I want to appreciate y'all taking time out of your schedule. I know there's a lot of things that you could be doing besides visiting with me. So I appreciate it. Just trying to give back a little bit. Hopefully this will help make your day a little better. All right. Clean this up a little bit. I hate when that happens. And unfortunately, it happens not often, but more than I would like. All right, so that would kill two birds with one stone. All right, so now I have a nice square, right? So what I'll do is I'll do a 90-degree there. That'll give us the drive part. Before I do that, I'm going to flatten some of this out to make it square, so that after we do this, we can do a nice little twist. And that'll be real pretty. And we're dropped. Everything looks okay. Yeah, it's about time to be dressed up again anyway. All right. So now we're going to go square so we can put our twist in. We'll get this done. I'll finish this up and we'll call it a day. What do you think? So like I said, leave down in the comments or shoot me a message, post on the page a time that might work better for you. I know this is just kind of last minute. So hopefully going forward this will work for you. If not, it doesn't. I like sharing. I've never done this live thing, so thanks for being patient with me. Alright, so I'm going square. much square, just some square. Just enough to kind of give it some shape. This is not going to be the prettiest one in the world. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to bend this 90, and then we'll give it a twist. So they'll have a twist here in the middle. And I don't like the way that looks. I'm gonna clean that up. It's worth doing something. It's worth doing it right, right? Right there. It's got a little indentation in it. I don't like it. I think the rest of that will be fine. A lot of the scale will pop off when we do the twist. The scale will be everywhere. All right, so we're going to heat up the tip so we can get our 90 in. 90 degrees, so we've got our dry part. Okay. So it looks like the good length of the nail there. All right. So I'm not and straighten this out all the way, because when we do our twist, we'll have to straighten it out then. All right, so I'm gonna get this middle part hot, and then we'll twist it, and you'll get to see what that looks like. That's gonna be kind of cool. I always like doing these. Okay, we're about there. It would help if I had all my tools together, because I need 2 pairs of tongs. I showed you my first pair of tongs that I ever made earlier. That was probably the second or third pair that I made. I use these, not all the time, but often enough. These are great. They're just flat tongs. Nothing fancy about them, but they work wonderful for what I need. All right, so I'm gonna cool off this end because I don't want it to bend. All right, and then we're just gonna twist. A little bit of a twist. Oh boy, we're all off, aren't we? We're wonky. All right, I'll straighten that up in a second. So we've got that. I'm going to get my red Flintstone hammer. Great thing about blacksmithing is the tools you need, you just make them, right? So, oak handle, hickory head. Make sure my hammer's out of the way. Clean off all the scale. Take my hammer, because I don't want to leave hammer marks. So we want to take our little Flintstone hammer here, kind of flatten it out a little bit, make sure it looks okay. Nothing worse than a wonky hook, right? All right. So there we have a drive hook. Nice little twist. I don't know if you can see. Got most of that, if you saw earlier, all that pittedness that they had in there, we knocked most of that off. Hence the form knocking off the rust. So we're good to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean it off good, and I'm going to put a little paste wax, right? Kind of protect it, so that way it's metal. It'll rust eventually, but I don't want it to rust right away. And then we will be done for the day. Still has a little bit of pittiness to it, but I think that's all right. It's kind of pretty. And gives it some character. All right. So I'm just going to lay this on top of my coal fire. So it kind of gives it just a little bit of warm heat. And let me get my hat. Open that up. Take my hammer back. One of those kind of people that kind of cleans as they go. So there's not quite so much cleanup to do at the end of the day. All right. I usually do all this over on my table, but y'all can't see over there. Let's see if it's warm enough yet. Oh yeah. Don't want it too hot. You just want it kind of smoky, right? Kind of opens the pores up a little bit of the metal. We're just going to kind of paint it on there. Gives it a nice little, kind of like, you know how you blacken cast iron, right? Oh man, I got wax on my, I don't want that. So we're kind of the same principle, except I'm using paste wax. That way if it's out in the weather, it won't rust quite so quickly. I mean, it's metal, so eventually it will rust. A little bit of smokiness to it, so it gets all down in all the pores. Runs off nice and pretty. Then I'll set it over here on the wood and let it finish. But then we have us a drive hook. Well, I think that's going to be all for today. I appreciate you stopping by, saying hi, joining in. If you have questions about what you want later, say something. If you have a particular time that works better, can't always be accommodating to everybody, but I will try. And we can do these pretty much however often that you want. I'm gonna be down here anyway, so most likely it'll probably be, you know, noon, 1 o'clock every day. Not every day, but most days. This is my sanctuary, you know. This is where I can kind of escape, get away from it all. I absolutely have a fantastic time doing this. I hope you've enjoyed watching. I've enjoyed having you. So from me to you, thanks, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day, y'all.